Well, good morning, Miramar, and welcome to the show. I'm your host, Tamara G. As always, you can check us out on all of our social media. We are on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at City of Miramar. And with me is a dear friend, an old friend, hadn't seen him in a long time, so it's always good to see him, Mr. Ed Brown. He has written a book called Take Flight, The Eulogy of America's First Black-Owned FBO. And I know that I don't want to call it a labor of love, Ed. It may be a labor of hate or trying to come to grips with what happened.
Yeah.
But it is Opalaka Flight Line, the untold story. So tell us a little bit, first of all, of what an FBO is.
An LPO is a fixed base operation. Basically, I can explain it to you. It's like fuel based operation at general aviation airports. It's like if you're at a international airport or big airport and you're sitting in the terminal and you see all these people moving around with the baggage cars, the lab cart, and all that kind of stuff, and fueling trucks and stuff
The
like that.
planes, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we're doing the same thing, but it's at a general aviation airport. So it's basically a service gas station for private jets, and we offer everything from just like the big airports, everything from car rental agencies to concierge service to shuttle services. So it's
So you're
just
talking big business. You're talking big money.
big money. We're talking.
Okay. And
Yeah,
true
yeah.
confession here, I had been to Flightline before, where I had a very nice birthday party. It was beautiful, celebrating one of my monumental birthdays with you guys. And it was wonderful. I remember, and my relatives who were there, actually, I guess at that time, Tom Joyner's plane was sitting right there, the fly jock. His plane was sitting right there on y'all's tarmac. And you talking about my cousins and my family were just like astonished that his plane would be there and that this was a black-owned business.
Yes, we were, Tamara, we were the first Black-owned business since the invention of airplanes, back before, even when the idea was stolen from a Black man, was the first one really that invented the airport. Then the Wright brothers pretty much parlayed off that, and about 100 years ago, they made their first flight. So this was the first time that we have been given the opportunity as African American to dispense fuel into private jets from our own, like they want to say, our own sandbox, from our own terminal. So this was monumental. And you know what comes with when you're the first ones to do something. You know, there's no big brother out there for you. There's nobody to call. There's nobody to relate. So we had to rely on our industry experience that came from Tony Robinson, Eric and Lynette Turner's, who had about 70 years of combined experience in aviation, from fueling to repairing engines.
And so this a partnership with Miami-Dade County, the city of Opelika, like what the federal government, like who was this with and how did it go so badly?
This was a private enterprise, and we would just happen to be located at Oak Airport, which is a former military base. It happens to be sitting in the city of Opelika. At least 60% of the airport resides in Opelika. No, there was no partnership with Miami-Dade County. You know, only thing we got from Miami-Dade County was a lease. There was no partnership with the Federal Aviation Administration because basically, when Miami-Dade County got the rights to develop the airport, they were developing it with private enterprises that stood alone independently. So if you went out there and you had business, you were pretty much on your own. So you couldn't look to them for funding. And with Flightline, what went wrong with Flightline was that we were deceived in terms of we signed a 5-year temporary lease. And at the end of that 5-year lease, we were supposed to have a transition over into a 15-acre, 30-year lease on a different site on the airport. Now, in the lease, it says the federal approved lease as well as a Miami-Dade Board of County Commission approved lease. And after the first year, we were supposed to have signed a lease for those 30 years for those 15 acres. That did not happen. So we were out there pretty much just running our business, doing what we had to do. Because one thing we didn't want to do, Tamara, we didn't want to give up. We didn't want to not hold up our end of the bargain. So we stayed out there the full 5 years. And when I say deceived, the county never gave us that lease. So at the end of those 5 years, we were out. and it was some other stuff that went on, what I would call a conspiracy to get rid of the first black-owned FBO in U.S. history. When you got special interest groups that are out there, you have some rich boys that were pretty much driving this horse to say, look, these guys got the best 15 acres on the airport. We have 260 acres, but guess what? We want their 15 as well. So some things were going on behind the scene. They bailed the county out of a $20 million lawsuit. So they became, like the privileged group. They were billionaires and they had a lot of money and they had a lot of power and they had a lot of political influence. So that pretty much fed into the demise of Flightline.
Mhm. Now, obviously, if you were to talk to them, I'm sure they're going to come up or have another reason why Flightline did not, make it. But with everything that was going on, I mean, there were attorneys that were involved in this as well.
Yes, our first attorney was George Knox. George Knox was mainly a mediator at that time in his career. So he came out and we sat with AA, we sat with the county, and we devised that lease. And we pretty much felt as though had got to the point where the lease had been formulated. As a matter of fact, it was formulated. We signed it. But after we signed it, Tamara, that lease never made it back. It never made it before the FAA. It never made it to the Board of County Commission, and it never made it to the Airport and Transportation Committee for approval. So
So where did it go? I mean, obviously everybody signed it. Where did it go? It just disappeared? Somebody just tore it up, decided we don't want to do this?
no. See, when you have underlings, when you got your political structure, which you know pretty much well, your county commissioners and the FAA, you got that. But then you are entrusting your departments, which is Miami-Dade Aviation Department.
Mhm.
Now, they gave us a lease. Tony Robinson, my partner, he signed it. We gave it back to them, and that lease went straight into the garbage can. It never resurfaced. It never came back. So that's why I was saying, how does the government deceive the people? The government is supposed to be for the people, by the people. And when that happens, you're kind of at a loss. We couldn't turn back. Why? Because we had just put hundreds of thousands of dollars into renovating a government building, which was 10,000 square foot, that was full of asbestos. And we know about all of the health risks that comes with asbestos.
Yes.
The county did come and they mitigated that building, but that was during the time that we had to sign the lease. So how do you give us a building that is already infested with asbestos? One question. Another thing was that Eric and Lynette Turner, our other partners, the building that they were in, because they had a small engine shop, plus they were doing exporting fuel to the Caribbean. So they had first dibs on this particular building because the building they were in was condemned. So now they done went from one condemned building to another. So at the end of the day, this is what you have. But guess what? We were determined. We were resilient. We had to overcome these odds. We had to deal with this because we never knew we were the first black owned until we got into the business. We did our
Right.
research. And when you had your party, when y'all came in, we blew this building out. It was a 10,000 square foot building that became a Class A building because
Absolutely.
that was the only way that we can compete. We didn't have the hangars, we didn't have the fuel farm. So you had to have the amenity because you're dealing with a high end clientele.
No, it was beautiful on the inside, beautiful, beautifully decorated, and of course, my folks were in and outside, out on the side of the tarmac. It was amazing, amazing party. But I guess I'm back to the point of if there was a signed lease and if it was never, I guess, filed, if the county didn't do their part, somebody was negligent, it fell into the trash can, somebody threw it in the trash can, whatever. It should be simple enough just to do another lease and have you guys sign it.
Well, when you are looked upon as not being privileged enough to even be out there, number one. See, first of all, Tamara, we weren't supposed to even open that building because that was supposed to have been a task that was too great. Then when we first opened the building, we had to find a smaller office to operate from because the building was uninhabitable.
Mhm.
So we first started off with air-conditioned bathrooms and a little small office. And that's how we began with Flightline. It took us about 9 months for us to get our permitting and do all the construction and get all the plans and get all of the business licenses and stuff in place. So basically, when we started out, we were almost like a year behind because the lease was running at that time. And going back to that particular lease, it was dictated on the second page of that lease that we must sign a long-term lease for the minimum standards of a full service FBO. That's 15 acres, 30 years. You had to have fuel tanks put in. You had to have hangars, about 100,000 square foot hangars. And what was significant about that, we were successful in getting our funding of $23.9 million to do that.
Wow.
So it's not like we weren't going to be successful. It was the fact that how do we stop them? And they tried to evict us out of the building 4 times in a 90-day period. How do you do that? And every time it got overturned. Then they started trying to sabotage the building, started taking the planes off of our ramp when we were catching them. We had to call out the police. We about to go through this throwdown out there. So you got all of
Wow.
that going on. But when you go to court, and I think when we got Willie Gary to represent us, Willie Gary is a very astute, very famous attorney, and he's got a record for winning for the little guys against the big guys.
Yes. Yep. That's
But
what he did.
you, but when you got money, history, power, and influence over the legal system, we had. And I'm just tell you this, Tamara. Our case got assigned to a judge that had brain cancer. So why would you do that when you know this woman was terminally ill? So this case just bounced around from courtroom to courtroom to courtroom. All we was doing was just filing a bunch of motions, counter motions, and stuff like that. And then when it landed to this particular judge, we had just achieved something that was monumental in the case, where their motion to dismiss the case was denied. But it said, you all have to amend your plea. We amended the plea. We submitted it back to court. Willie and staff, they put it back, we put it back in. So the judge said, since you all amended your plea, it nullifies the previous motion to dismiss the case. So I'm going to dismiss the case based on the amended plea. So the
But you
next
were
thing,
asked to amend the plea.
yeah, because
You're told to amend the plea.
they wanted us to amend the plea. The judge, he left the door open, put it to you like that. And
Mm.
they want us to amend the plea to the rules of civil procedure. Cameron, there's hundreds and thousands of rules for civil procedure. So, but we went ahead and we refiled it. And this judge just said, because of the fact that you all amended the plea, I'm going to dismiss the case off the amended plea. And then next thing you know, we in appellate court. We done had 24 hearings between 17 different judges,
Wow.
never been to trial, but we're in appellate court. They did everything in their power legally to keep Willie Gary from getting the trial. Because if he can't try the case, he can't win.
And no one can hear the case. And if you are just tuning in, thank you so much for doing so. I'm Tamara G, and I'm with Ed Brown. He is the author of the new book, Take Flight. It is the eulogy of America's first Black-owned FBO, Opalaka Flight Line, which is right here in South Florida. I want to play this video that you shared with me and that others can see and hear just so that they can really know what is going on. And let's see if it's going to play. Let's see. Is it? But as we're talking and trying to get this to play here, I would love to know what would be the end result of this because I know this has been going on since 2009. So really, what has been the end result and how are you guys going to get justice for this?
Well, the fact is now you haven't, the judge is saying that the case is over.
Hmm.
Too much time has passed and this and that. So you're getting the royal treatment in terms of how African Americans are dealt with in that courtroom. When a deal is stacked against you and you got a judicial system that's not going to pretty much be in your favor at least 80 to 90% of the time if you're Black. That was the reason why I wrote Take Flight. Take Flight is 12 chapters of just how this whole situation unfolded. And it's complete with documents from the court. It's complete with news articles. It's complete with the lease that we signed.
Hmm.
So it was a way to get the public. See, you may be able to stop me in the court for right now, but you can't stop me in the court of public opinion.
Right.
With
And
social media,
getting people to know what's going on.
right. And that's what you have to do because if they're telling me that, but see, Tamara, there's a movement now in federal courts with federal judges where they're now looking at these lower courts decisions. And
Hmm.
what they're doing is that they're coming back and reopening these cases. Now, a real famous case that resonates with us, that was about the Wall Street massacre, over 100 years old.
Hmm.
The lawyer, which is a young guy by the name of Danilo Solomon Simmons, even after the Supreme Court ruled against them, he had filed an appeal over the Department of Justice. Guess what? That 100-year-old case now is back open. So you just can't say that after 12 years, it's an old case because in Miami-Dade County, you got a lot of cross ties, you got a lot of relationships, you got a lot of people seeking contracts, you got a lot of people doing favors and favors and favors. You got politicians that are, having their campaigns funded, so they silence your politicians. And Tony and I, we went and met with every one of the politicians. And Tamara, I'm sad to say, they turned their backs on us. They didn't give us any help at all. As a matter of fact, one of them told us that we should shut down and then go work for AA acquisitions. How about that?
So stop being entrepreneurs and being the owners of your own company and go work for somebody else.
Yeah, go be a sharecropper. And I told them there's nowhere in West Hell, excuse my French, that I was a sharecropper because it's the same thing they were doing at slavery when they
Mhm.
were awarding us land after, the prohibition of slavery. But then they cut off all the supplies. You couldn't get no supplies. You couldn't get nothing to put into your land. You couldn't cultivate your land. So you eventually had to give that land back and then go back and work on that same land that was just had been given to you.
Right.
That happened. I was astonished. I'd rather just go, find me another job or do something else before I would go out and sharecrop and give up my dream. See, when you spend about $600,000, $700,000 and you open up an enterprise that has never been done before, why would you stop? We couldn't stop. We had to feed our family. So this wasn't about glamour and glitter, because it's a very, very tough business, even though it's a cash cow. You really got to put the time in and you really have to work hard.
Well, and for again, the people who are just tuning in, we're talking about the eulogy of America's first Black-owned FBO. As you said, fixed-based operations, fuel-based operations, and that's what you guys were doing. You were providing fuel to private planes. And like as I mentioned earlier, Tom Joyner's plane used to come in there.
Yeah.
Some of the other, I think Float Rider came through too, because I remember. I think Lil Wayne used to come through there with his plane. So you had celebrities that would come in and you guys would be the fuel that they would, get for their private jet.
See, the thing about us being the only one, Tamara, we were going to be getting stuff by default, contracts by default,
Hmm.
to deal with the disparate conditions that existed in a white male dominated industry, which is the aviation industry. It's very closed off, it's very close knit. They want to keep this among itself. Most people don't even know that this business even exists. That's why, you have to explain it as if it's a gas station for, private jets. But we had the brothers of two presidents as our customers,
Hmm.
Jeb Bush, who a lot of people might not, agree with, but we also had Senator Ted Kennedy. We also had Mark Anthony, J Lo. We had not only Tom Joyner, but we had Steve Harvey. We had Ludacris. We had the one of the biggest bosses that you got out there now, Rick Ross, right now was
Hmm.
like our customers, and it was a joy to be able to service them. But we were also a novelty. I just want to share one quick story. One
Okay.
one Saturday morning, I was working right, and next thing I know, there was 20 fighter jets that showed up on our ramp. Tamara, when I tell you those planes are intimidating,
Okay.
what they did, all of when I came and I stepped out on the ramp, all they did because we didn't have a military contract, so we couldn't service them anyway. They flipped up their canopies and gave me a salute. and said that a general told them to come by and just speak and acknowledge us.
Wow, that's
And
awesome.
that I mean, I'm gonna tell you that was a treat to see and to experience and see. A lot of people, lay people, don't understand when a 50 million jet pulls up to your front door and say, "Give me 5,000 gallons of gas." You like, oh, really?
Oh, I trust me. I'm thinking literally of the millions of dollars that were lost, with Flightline, Opelika Flightline. And now that you've written this book, I know it's been a while, you've put your heart and soul into it and you want people to read it. What do you want to happen in the end, Ed? What do you want people to take away from this? And what is going to be the legacy of Opelika Flightline? Are you guys still going to fight?
We're going to fight. Tamara, I have to answer that question, because we're still in the aviation industry. We just teamed up a couple of months ago with a company called Flighthound.
Okay.
Flighthound is owned by a guy, inventor by the name of David Handy, and he has came up with an air tag that not only traces your bag if it's lost, but you're able to file complaints for missed flights, canceled flights, lost bags, damaged bags. So now it's problems right now being able to get to the help desk in order to file your claims when you have them. So Congress has sent a lot of money over to these airlines. The money's just sitting there, and guess what? It goes back into their pocket. What Flighthound does is take you right to the help desk so that you can get your refunds and you can file your claim. So Flightline is going to have another first, not just with with the fuel, but we're also going to be first in introducing this type of air tag to the industry as well. So what's in it for us? Flightline, you're going to have to pay us. You got to compensate. You cannot do that in America today and just think that systemic racism and discrimination and the lack of inclusion, just when you're out, you're out. There has to be some compensation. So I want to apply enough pressure by this book, by my public speakings, by dear people like you that will give me a platform to speak for, that the public can now become aware of what really happened. And if we create a big enough groundswell, guess what happens? Then the pressure is put back on, just like hashtag Black Lives Matter when they did that. So now we're getting ready to start hashtag Justice for Flightline. So we're not going away. And we got attorneys that are also looking at the case to reopen the case. But Flightline should have never been in court. I'll just put it to you like that. All the county had to do was go ahead and award us. Now, if you'd have gave me that lease and we'd have fell flat on my face, we would have went on about our business. But that wasn't it. You can't create entrapment for me and create failure for me and then tell me, see you later.
So where can people find the book? Take Flight, The Eulogy of America's First Black-Owned FBO, which is right out there at Opelika Airport. Where can they find the book?
They can find the book at opelakaflightline.com, or they can go to Amazon and they can put in Take Flight by Eddie Brown. The book will pop up. Guess what we just discovered today?
What?
Amazon has rated Take Flight as a 5-star rating.
Nice. Very nice, Ed. That is awesome.
So the book
I'm
is,
still, that is amazing. I'm gonna try to play this. I guess I don't know why I can't. I apologize because I really want people to see the video. But obviously, if they go to your website, they can see all of this, and on your social media as well, right?
yes, but I wish we could bring it up because it tells a story in about a minute and a half. Because a lot of times people don't have time for the conversation.
Right.
Some people may not want to, read all of the book, but I'm gonna tell you this here. If you can get past the first 4 pages in this book, which is going to be tough, I'm telling you, it's a tearjerker. It's one that makes you want to become resilient. As a matter of fact, one of the comments said that this is a motivational manual based on resilience and how you become, the underdog comes back and how relentless and resilient that you are in terms of staying in the fight, doing the things that you have to do. So,
Oh my gosh, and I'm on page 22 and 23, looking at the before photos of
yeah,
the location. Yeah, no, that is not how it looked when I had my birthday party. This is how it looked. It's a beautiful facility. I mean, and I know you said people would just come once they were fueling, the celebrities and the different people who had the private jets. They just come in and just hang out because
And
it's
now,
such a
yeah,
great place.
one of the good things about having Tom join as one of our base customers, you got a guy that's world renowned, uh,
Hmm.
very astute radio personality, in the entertainment business. And he thought it was not robbery to come and do business because people don't know Tom's father was a Tuskegee airman.
Airman. Yep.
And
Yep.
on the tail of his plane, he always had what they call a red tail, which is the one of the planes commemorative of the red tails. Like I said, commemorated his father, but it also
Mhm.
showed you what the aircraft looked like on his tail. And like I say, dealing with Tom, you got an authoritative figure there. But a lot of people, even when Steve Harvey came in, it was funny one morning. They say, "Who black plane that is?" I said, "That's Tom's plane." He said, "Well, I got to get me a jet too." So Tony started working with him to acquire his first jet.
Yep.
But those are the type of experiences that we miss because there's no connection,
Mhm.
from the industry to really to our people and people of color. Even one of the best things about it, we were able to house Florida Memorial's um, flight training program through the Negro Airman Institute. We gave them an office. We even gave them free fuel for their plane so that our young aviators could learn how to fly. So you're not going to get that anywhere else.
Right. Right.
So
Well, OpalakaFlightline.com is the website. You can find the book on Amazon. You can also find it there on the website. Take Flight, the eulogy of America's first Black-owned FBO, Opalaka Flight Line, The Untold Story by Eddie Brown. Ed, thank you so much for being with us today and telling this story. And we hope for justice. We pray for justice to happen. And
please.
maybe it's never denied. It may just maybe taking a little while, but it's never denied.
I agree with you, Tamara, and thanks for having me. And thanks for me standing in the gap for my partners as well. They're not on the call, but they are here. We all are gonna stay together. What's good for one is good for all. So you're gonna see us. We're not gonna fade away. We're not just gonna come out and talk. It's gonna be some action because we're getting ready. This is bigger than just Flightline. This is dealing with racism. Racism is on the rise in America. There's no joke about that. Everybody
Absolutely.
understands that. But we should be better off financially as a people. But if we keep getting these setbacks, how do we do that? How do we get there? That's the question. So that's why it's important for us to stay in the flight. And I'm just glad that you gave me an opportunity to spend some time with you. You're one of my favorite people. I want to
You're one
thank
of my favorites too.
you. Okay.
All right, so it's called Take Flight, the eulogy of America's first Black-owned FBO, Opalaka Flight Line, The Untold Story. Again, you can find it on the website, opalakaflightline.com, or on Amazon. You can get the book and read it for yourself. Thank you so much, Ed, for being
Thank
here.
you.
Author Ed Brown, also one of, I know, isn't that something? Author Ed Brown, of course, one of the owners of Opalaka Flight Line and founders. And we wish you much success with the book and good luck with this case as well.
Thank you, Tamara. And have a great day.
And thank you for watching Good Morning Miramar. Until next time, I'm your host, Tamara G. See ya.